So good morning, Efi. So pleased to have you with us this morning.
Hi, Sabine. Thank you so much for having me today. And maybe I can try with you some of my French.
Oh, can't wait. Bien sûr, Efi. That would be wonderful.
Alors, tu sais pas que moi, j'ai vécu à Strasbourg pour 4 ans et puis à Montréal pour 5 ans.
Oh, c'est merveilleux. 5 ans à Montréal et 4 ans à Strasbourg.
Oui, parce que je suis mariée avec un diplomate. Alors, on a déménagé 2 fois dans des pays francophones.
C'est merveilleux, c'est merveilleux. Ça fait 30 ans que je suis à Londres et donc généralement les gens me disent que mon français c'est du franglais maintenant.
Franglais.
So it's so great to have you with us. I mean, our audience is probably more Anglophone. I'm sure there would be a few French watching as well, but such a pleasure to have you with us this morning. And I would love to start talking about who you are, Efi, because I know you're #1 independent influencer. I read a lot of your content on LinkedIn. I follow you on Twitter. So I'd love to introduce yourself to the people who are going to watch that webinar.
Thank you so much, Sabine, for the opportunity. It's kind of, how can I say? It's kind of embarrassing to present myself, but let me pick on some pieces from my life. I'm Greek in origin. I grew up and studied in Greece, and then I continued my graduate studies in the US, a PhD in finance, and then a career on Wall Street in New York for about 10 years. Then I moved into the hedge fund industry for a couple of years. As I mentioned before, I got married to a diplomat while in the US, and then we had a family, we have a family, and we started traveling the world, and I worked in different capacities in different areas. I also worked in academia while in Canada, teaching at McGill University, and my last stop or final sort of stop has been in Switzerland. I've been here for 7 years, and this is where I decided to leave corporate life and dive into innovation and disruption in financial services, which was clear to me that was the right place to be. And I developed my expertise in FinTech by really reaching out and covering all the innovations that were going on in financial services, with some focus, I would say, in capital markets, innovations, and wealth management, because I understood that better. And that brings us to today. I am in Switzerland, as I said before, and I do a lot of work as an influencer and a thought leader in the industry. And I'm sure we'll have opportunity to touch on more specifics as we speak.
Absolutely. So one of the questions which come to mind based on what you just said, Efi, is when you look at Geneva, when you look at Switzerland, when you look at Zurich and Zug maybe, how is innovation popping up across Switzerland? Do you think there is a strength on the FinTech, wealth tech? Where is the strength coming from in Switzerland?
You know, Switzerland always ranks top, if not the #1 overall in innovation, you know, in the usual innovation indices. Yeah. And because of that, there's a very high expectation for Switzerland, and clearly it hasn't met that standard in general in the FinTech in the FinTech front, or in the FinTech boom, if you want, of the last at least 5 years. There's definitely other hubs that rank much higher. Having said that, in this subspace of what I would call blockchain for finance, which comes out of Crypto Valley. Definitely there, Switzerland is one of the biggest hubs. And again, it's an example of how an ecosystem works, which is you need the regulator, you need the private sector, you need the capital, and you need an international outreach for the recipe to work. And that is what has happened really in the crypto, the so-called crypto sector. And it has not happened in FinTech. Having said that, in the FinTech sector, I would say that the strength here in Switzerland is more in the RegTech subvertical, which is related to also, data analytics and so on. So that's at a high level where Switzerland stands.
Interesting. So the reason why I reached out to you, Efi, is I read your recent article and saw some of your content on YouTube as well. Efi has a channel on YouTube where you were talking about sustainability and sustainable investing. And so I wanted to ask you, why is sustainability becoming such a major topic today? As of 1st of January, I've seen so many companies reaching out and asking questions about it. So I just wanted to hear your point of view about it.
It's innovation happens or gets adopted, I think. But before, what precedes is there's a shift in the narrative. Mm-hmm. And that shift in the narrative has happened around sustainability. And that's why we're seeing in many, by many metrics, in many parts, change around sustainability. I was looking at some concrete figures around flows in ESG funds. And Calastone was reporting that in December 2020, ESG net inflows surpassed 1 billion pounds, a record number. That's just one example. There's many more such examples. You see the interest. So there's definitely a shift in the narrative, but I must say that we're really early in this process of integrating the narrative around sustainability really into our life. We have a big gap even with respect to our consumer behavior. I think that we are more advanced in terms of our consumer behavior and our awareness around sustainability when we shop for food, for clothes, and so on. We are much more aware and we make choices that are in alignment with sustainability more than in investing.
Yeah. So interestingly, I work with insurance companies, and what I see in insurance is question being asked around climate change. So how that combination around climate change and sustainability comes about and how we can change people's behavior. A lot of questions around carbon footprint as well. Carbon footprint startups able to accelerate an organization maybe to implement some of those techniques and approaches internally, for employee to actually understand better, but also for consumers. Have you seen a similar pattern around that trend around climate change and carbon footprint requests?
Definitely. I mean, just this past month in one of my content pieces, I was looking to see which are the climate fintechs. There was a great report out there that I was reading, and they were identifying in different areas climate fintechs. Other ones are in banking, like Aspiration, or others are in trading or in analytics and so on. So there is a space that is sort of appearing and shaping up, if you want. I can imagine that soon we will have even VC funds that are exclusively focused on climate in different ways. You know, it can be energy and so on. But climate fintech is in itself now already a space. Having said that, there's one thing also that worries me, and it's an indicator that we are early. You talked about, Sabine, the insurance industry being interested in, you know, climate and the carbon footprint, and how, I guess, corporates or individuals can reduce their carbon footprint. But at the same time, what we are seeing is a lot of businesses or startups offering services to trade credits, right?
Absolutely.
So we need to get over that. I mean, of course, at this stage, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. For example, I saw the other day a marketplace that is focused on linking small farmers, like a collective, to large corporations, and the small farmers can give their carbon footprint credit to the large corporations, because essentially it would go to waste, so to speak, if they didn't have this platform. But we really need to you know, change that.
Finding the right balance, right? And it feels like when you are talking about all those trading platforms coming up, right, to solve that carbon footprint imbalance, it feels like very, I guess, commercial, right? We think that we can just trade it off, right? We do it. We're creating waste, but we can trade it off, which goes into one of the articles you've written around, you know, sustainability is not about the metrics, it's about purpose. I think I read that in one of your articles as well.
Yes, it's about purpose. First of all, Sabine, I mean, when I talk to others that are really devoted in this sector in all sorts of different ways, some of them it's educational, others are on the investor side, or, you know, you are in venture building and so on. There isn't a definition and an agreement and a consensus and a mutual understanding of what we are referring to when we say sustainability. So that's another indication that we are early. We are, you know, we've moved and we're ticking boxes, and maybe we're getting accounting, and maybe we will get it right with data analytics for ESG funds, because that remains a very big problem. When I talk to asset managers that are really focused on ESG investing, they are obliged to subscribe, pay to a variety of alternative data providers, that so they can make sense of who is really getting the right rating. Because as we said before, a company can be getting a high ESG ranking on the climate front, but that might be completely negated because they are doing something negative on another front in terms of, you know, labor practices, or, you know, you name it, right?
Yeah. And we see that as well. We see that, you know, we sourced last year over 100 ventures looking at energy, transport, construction, looking at ESG and a variety of criteria. And you're absolutely right. The number one things we heard from the company we interviewed is that they are scared of the reputational risk linked to those metrics provided by these ESG companies. And so therefore they have to sign up for all of them just to actually manage their own reputational risk, which I find fascinating.
Yes, yes. And also, we have to realize that what the ball has started rolling in the public markets, right? We have, BlackRock, leading and making these big announcements and actions, which is very important. But these are the public markets. I mean, this has to start from the seed, from when the company is born. Is it thinking sustainably? And what does it mean? Starting from the team, how you treat your team. I mean, what is a company? It's a group of people with a mission.
Yes.
Right? So how do you think of that? It's a group of people with a mission. And is that mission completely sort of segregated from society, from nature, from all that? No, it isn't. But we don't think like that yet.
So when you look at those trends, so we are talking about sustainability and investing. And when I look at the different pillars, we also see lending being important. So what I've seen, for example, in insurance, one of the legal and general, for example, is building a sustainable home in various parts of the UK. So I guess it's part of lending and using new metrics to build the future. But also we have the pillar called investing, which is just starting, I think. I mean, we started probably with telematics and looking at autonomous driving and electric cars is a way, I guess, to trade off the fossil fuel we create whilst we are driving our cars. But this is moving now to energy, any renewable energy, looking at construction, green building, a variety of areas. So 3 pillars: investing, lending, and insuring. So when you look at this, what are the constraints, all the threats we need to consider in our marketplace for young ventures, fintech, as well as big companies, incumbents out there?
When I hear you talking about the 3 pillars, it's again, we still operate in silos, and we make decisions that are siloed, right? So our, borrowing needs, right, are separate than our investing needs, and I'm talking as a corporate.
Yeah.
Right. So we haven't put the whole picture together. We are at a very early stage. And again, the risk is that we're struggling to innovate and move forward and say, okay, I, as a corporate, I'm going to issue a bond, and it's going to be a sustainability bond because, for example, I'm borrowing these funds towards renewable energy, whatever, whether if we're a service company, it will be, our buildings and everything. If we're a product company, to change our manufacturing process and so on. But that's only one part of what needs to be done. And then we stop there. It's as if it's a project, much like digitalization. It has to become native. It has to become part of the culture, and we are not there yet. And I strongly believe, Sabine, that this has to start from the startups.
Yeah. The startup needs to enable that. And I'm just looking at, and we'll put this as we produce this webinar and release it. I'm looking at one of your slides around climate fintech and the type of companies which are there already. You shared with me some companies around payment, Tribit, Equitable as an example, risk analytics, banking, investing, lending, and trading. Actually, do you want to share a bit more context around those fintechs coming to market, able to help already today?
Yes, so these climate fintechs, as I mentioned before, New Energy Nexus put out a very detailed report on this topic, and I picked some of these fintechs. I know very well the Swiss Carbon Delta fintech, which is around, very sophisticated analytics that help companies evaluate their climate risk as a company. What is their exposure? In the lending part, Mosaic is a specialty lender offering basically loans for solar energy. Aspiration is a very well-known US bank that is really around sustainability. Triodos Bank, you probably know Sabine because of their presence, the big presence in Europe, and there also practices around funding ventures that are sustainable. On the investing side, both Yova, which is Swiss, and Open Invest, which is American, they are focused on the public sector, on creating, enabling individuals to create portfolios that have companies and know on what ESG or SDG criteria these companies are doing well. So really have a metric for your portfolio. And going forward, we're going to be seeing more of these and more of them partnering with other companies. Incumbent banks are partnering with these fintechs so they can integrate it in their lending practices, for example, and a lot of them in their corporate finance and commercial business banking practices.
And I also remember a great piece of content you also produce around green tech and inclusion. When you start looking at D&I, which is also a key driver, I think it's one of the ESG. Can you tell us more around what's happening in green tech and inclusion?
It's a very exciting topic there, and there we're seeing that the trend of digital apps, digital banking or digital finance apps, taking advantage of lifestyle sort of appeals, whether they are rewards, giving lifestyle rewards to people, or gamifying their offerings. A lot of them have taken advantage of the change in the narrative and the fact that people do care, for example, about the environment. And we are seeing a lot being done around tree planting.
Yeah.
And the most successful one, and at a large scale, is Ant. Mm-hmm. from China. They actually started a project. It's a non-profit project that they piloted because they're a little bit like Google. They pilot a lot of new services every 2 weeks and see what works and go through the agile feedback loop.
Absolutely.
And they piloted Ant Forest, which was about every individual having the ability to track their personal footprint, whether you're taking a bicycle or walking to work, your food, your shopping habits, etc. Urban lifestyle, sort of accumulating points for that, and then Ant Group uses those points and enables you to pick a tree that you like and where you would like it to be planted, and then watch it how it's been planted and how it grows. And they're using this to tackle deforestation, which is a major issue in China on their northern borders. And that way they're creating a community, they're creating jobs at the borders and so on. So you see, how you create something that has a specific sort of mission, but it has a lot of economic value. And when I say economic value, I like to distinguish it from the financial value, right? It's that intangible but economic value that is there.
Which is fascinating, right? Because they are enabling the users to be far more aware of their carbon footprints, but then because of that, they also enabling, this management of greenhouse gas emission in a very, very, as you said, economical, balance with value way, which is unique, I guess. Yeah.
And even creating a digital connection between the person in the urban setting, the person that is on the border and is planting the trees. There's a connection there.
Which is interesting, yeah. Which takes me to, when you look at the FinTech, GreenTech, climate tech business models, when we started with FinTech, InsurTech, we looked at, the challenger, the bank challenger, the InsurTech challengers. We talk about payment innovators. In my case, we talk about underwriting innovators, or claim innovators, focusing on the value chain of the organization. Then I think now you start looking at organizations focusing on some of the UN SDGs drivers, like no hunger, no poverty. So I guess it's about banking for the underserved or insuring for the underserved. Do you see a change in the business model of the FinTech coming to us with all this climate change and sustainability trends?
I think still we're struggling with the business models, clearly. We are struggling because it's clear that the SaaS model has made it very difficult to create a moat and very difficult to scale. In my opinion, and this is I'm starting to think about this. The way we are in FinTech and in general, the tech sector, the tech fin sector, because really the business model that's successful has come out of the East. It's really the tech fins like Ant and Tencent and those that have reinvented a successful, scalable business model. We in the West haven't really reinvented that, and we haven't been able to change the existing business models. So Sabine, honestly, going forward, and this is more like a 5-year horizon, I think there is definitely a need to change the financial incentives the way we have them today. Yeah. We need to have hybrid incentives. So there's partly the monetary compensation and incentive within a business and within the communities that are engaged with the business, but we need all the other intangible social and so on incentives. And that is where the tokenization can really do wonders and change fundamentally the incentives that we have built in to the way that we do business.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what tokenization is?
Yes, surely. So tokenization, I'll try to explain it while everybody thinks it's cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Tokenization is about being able to digitize something that is valuable, whether it is a tangible or an intangible. And when I say digitize, why does it matter? It matters so you can exchange it, like you exchange payments. So similar to the ease in which you can exchange a payment for a service, or which is intangible, or for something tangible, you know, food or whatever, we want through tokenization to be able to exchange a package that contains something tangible and something intangible. And there's many examples for this. I think the most obvious one that we can understand is when people do volunteer work. There's definitely, we all value that.
Yeah.
Right? There is what I would call a collective consciousness, a collective understanding, and that puts a value to it. And yet we have nothing that really
links back, right? The voluntary
links back or documents this, right? Or so we can have an auditable trail of it, right? We have in our cultures all sorts of other ways of recognizing, for example, intangible contributions of people with awards, with this, with that, and the other, right? I mean, we are in the 21st century. We should have instantaneous, auditable, traceable ways to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because we as humans value our social interactions. We talk about it all day, right? And we haven't found yet a way to really be able to trade it and have it tangible.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's like as if, you know, it's not about barter trade.
No.
Right? But we are in the Stone Age in this respect.
I think it connects as well with some of the trend around circular economy. I'm listening to what you are saying, and I'm, you know, trying to remember some of the discussion I've had with, you know, some of the tech companies, for instance, around the circular economy, you know, reuse, recycle, where I guess, you know, the model is changing, and sometimes you are creating some new level of economic exchange you didn't think about before. And you know, your volunteering example and tokenization potentially could be a great mean to control and understand within a circular economical frame how value is created, actually.
Exactly. It also allows us to put a value on the impact that anything we create today has in the future. Because obviously, you know, I mean, sustainability or damaging sustainability is about, you know, doing things today that are beneficial and good, but damage us and nature and the economy and the society in the future.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to be able to account for that. Once we are willing to do it, because we can, then we can tokenize that. We can make it tangible. Anything that we can measure, we can make it tangible. So it's our willingness to measure what is important and valuable to us.
Incredible. I mean, incredible statement, which, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking about the word transparency. So it's driving that transparency within our economies and the way we do things, I guess, as well.
Yes, yes. It's very much related to transparency. It also brings us to make decisions and choices in terms of the direct impact of our actions versus the indirect. Indirect can be now, it can be also in the future. So we need to be accountable for all this. So this is exactly where tokenization, if it's used as incentives, right, then it can work wonders. Today we are compensated only, through financial means, and mostly by, performing tasks, right? We live, we operate, the way our economy operates is a task transaction oriented economy, right? It's not a people centered economy. It's not a nature centered economy. Mm-hmm. For it to happen, we need to have different incentives, tokens. And this is what tokens allow us to do, to combine, the money, right? And then other aspects that we value. And we will have the choice, like we have a choice today, to work a lot because we want to become, what's the song that my kids were singing from opera? I want to become a zillionaire or whatever.
The new term.
I mean, some people might want to do that. That's fine. But others want to have, enough for, comfortable retirement. And then they want to do something else. What is that purpose and why aren't they compensated?
Absolutely. And I think, all the items we have discussed around, sustainability, looking at our climate and green tech, now tokenization, and that need for transparency connect together, will drive hopefully some level of reflection for those watching this video. I would like, Efi, if you could give us your last few words. We spent a great probably 30, 40 minutes together already. And so it's amazing how the time goes. If we were going to be doing something really unique within the sustainability and sustainable investment space, green tech, climate change, what would be the recommendation for those listening to this webinar?
Well, let me share a vision that I have, that we will hopefully soon see a bank for intangible assets, where you and I, everybody can safekeep their intangible assets. Yes. So that is
a dream.
We should be, yes.
And it's a great way of finishing this discussion, being able to know where our intangible assets are, how our behavior are linked to our intangibles as well, and what we could leave behind as well to...
and how to grow those intangible assets, how to compound interest and grow wealth out of them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Efi, for a great time with you. Thank you for giving me some of your great perspective. We are here with Efi, #1 independent global fintech influencer. So I'm very grateful to have been able to share some of your views and thinking with our community, InsurTech community. Thank you, Efi.
Thank you so much, Sabine, for having me.
If you like this podcast, subscribe now, share with your friends, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a 5-star review. Also, if you want to cover any specific subject with me, contact me on Instagram under Sabine VdL Officials or LinkedIn under Sabine VdL. Thank you.